Welcome back to the Glac Studio. This is Gomati Sivasankaran. I'm taking you through this short tutorial on post production when it comes to activities such as artwork and oil paintings that I have done here. What kind of post production activities are involved and what exactly do I do? I would like to share that in this tutorial format with you with some short easy instructions on something basic that I do, not restricting you to only this particular way of doing post production activities. That could be really many other ways to do it, which I will slightly touch upon based on what I have seen other artists do as well. So, this is just the method that I'm trying to follow, keeping in view that I have a small little creative startup and it doesn't have so many resources to do things in a bigger way. How do we manage post production? So that's exactly what we are going to cover. And in today's session, we are going to look at documentation. So, what exactly is documentation? I did the painting. The painting is finished. So, the series that you have been watching me do in all the tutorial formats are finished very well. What exactly is documentation? So, from the point of view of proofing, what is the proof that I did this one? There is signature, of course. There is, there are some videos lying out there on the internet. So these may be called documentation. When it comes to making a product, what is more important is that the product has a code and people are very clear when they are buying a product that they are exactly picking up that product only in a shop or in a website or so, and it's an authenticated product made by or prepared by or such, isn't it? So there must be a proof of who did it, when and how and such, and certain other details. For example, let's say that you're going to a shop to buy something. Will you just pick up packets and throw them into your basket without even knowing what they are? For example, if it's a perishable item, fruits, will you not check the date when it is produced, for example? And if you're buying a clothing, for example, instead of a perishable item, then you are looking at what type of cloth is that. How many washes will it go? Maybe I will not know by that, by purchasing it, but I want to understand what type of cloth am I buying. Is it a branded one, non-branded one, and such, isn't it? So these are basic things that you would like to know. So, what is important in terms of documentation when it comes to sharing, um, the pictures for a sale? Let's think of it. If somebody wants to buy the original, he or she would like to know the size of it. That's a basic one. And what else? They would like to know what type of quality the canvas was painted on. Has it some life or how long will it hold? They would like to know that. What else would they like to know? What type of painting is it? Is it is it a pencil sketch? Is it a oil painting, an acrylic painting, a watercolor? These things are basics, isn't it? So these are, I cannot assume, but because I have taken some videos and tutorials and such, I cannot assume that yes, people would have figured it out. So these are basic things that we would like to put in a documentation. So how do we document it? If you have a website, then it is easy. You will create a product code. In my case, I'll show you what I'm doing as well in a short while. You are using that product code, and in that product code, you're creating the photograph and giving all this information on the size, the type of painting, who painted it, when it was painted, and such, and necessary information including the price and such. We give all that information there. That is easier, and I'm going to show you what I do with that as well in a short while. But what if you say, I don't have a website yet? I'm still thinking of it. I'm only using social media, Instagram or Facebook or such, TikTok or such to, market or tell people that I am painting. So how do I document it still? So there are two types of documentation that you could do. One is definitely the internet version where you have a website and having all those things recorded in there. If not, manual documentation. You keep a journal for yourself where every information is available, and also you can document on the canvas itself, which I will show you in a short while. So once you do it manually, it's a practical bookkeeping methodology, meaning you're writing up all these things in a book and saying, okay, I'm going to give a code to that. You need code to that. Let's say that your name is ABC. You want to maybe use your initials itself. For example, let's say if I have to create a code, I'm saying GSS for Gomati Sivasankaran, GSS 0001, 002, the next product 003. So you could create your own coding. Alpha numerical codes will be really, what do you call, apt in a way. So you can actually bifurcate between the different types of products that you create. Like, for example, when I mention OPO, which I will see shortly, OPO, that is oil painting original for me. Otherwise, I forget. So the OPO codes are all oil painting originals, because I also release the print versions, which is OPP, oil painting prints. If it is pencil sketch prints, then it's pencil sketch PSP, pencil sketch original PSO. And I have kept all these codes myself. So should it be 3 letters or 4 letters? I think it's your choice. So when you're doing it manually, you decide how you want to code them. But keep a proper journal, date and timing. This is also helping you keep things aligned. And when you have a summary of things done, it is also helpful for you to price. We will come to the topic of pricing in another chapter. But this documentation is going to help you with the pricing. So keep that in mind. So how do I do document? I definitely have a website. I maintain this website and I have automated all these codes created, and I mention everything. But I also do a manual documentation right behind each of my canvas, and I'm actually working on this one. So this is how it looks right now. So the name of my painting, again, documentation also involves titling, because if you do not title, I think you will notice when you go to exhibitions, when you are presenting your paintings or artwork for an exhibition, they invariably ask you for a title. If you have not titled it, by default, they put it as untitled. You've put in a lot of effort, give it a name, give it a simple name. And I think it will be very helpful for you also to keep track of things. When you are making one or two paintings, then it is not a big deal, but eventually you want to grow your art business or art, the creative journey, and you want to evolve into that. So naming that is also giving it a finish line. So I have put the title of that painting, which is available on my website also. It's a name, same name. That is another thing. I have seen some artists, giving different names. Like for example, I have also given, in this case, the names are long, but I have also given a short forms of these names in some places. But the series is all named, in the same category, so it's easier for people to find out or identify, recognize what it is all about and such. So it's Attract Abundance series paintings, and I have put the name of this particular Lakshmi, that is Gajalakshmi from China. That's the name, and the original oil painting original code 38 is also running things, and artist name I have written in the English language, so artist name, or if you have company registered. So in my case, I have registered this as a startup here in this country, Denmark, so I have mentioned that, and then I also mentioned the city and um, yeah, city and such, city and the country. Then, in this case, the producer of this particular um, canvas has already mentioned 500 by 600. I don't know how clear it is visible here, but it is already done by the producers of this particular frame. So I didn't have to put it, otherwise, I would also write it down. See, of course, people can measure, but I always write it down because if somebody is taking a picture of it, picture of things, do you really, from the images that you have seen, even in my website, can you really assess the size of the painting? Is it my size or is it a small photo size? Every painting, every picture looks the same. And on a mobile phone, mostly people are viewing things on a mobile phone, so everything is the mobile size technically. So you will have to put the size somewhere because it's already there. I'm not putting it. Um, of course, when people can measure, they can measure, but I think it's also helpful for people who are in exhibitions to know the size of it so they can arrange things easily accordingly when they are doing it. Another thing that I do it in pencil mark. I don't know if it is visible here. It's so lightly visible, but every time I work on a canvas, and it's also because I happen to work on multiple canvases at the same time. I think it's most of the creative people's habit that you get an idea and then you get another idea, you get another idea. So you kickstart some projects together. And in this case, it was a huge project with 8 paintings kickstarted at the same time. So I mentioned the number of hours that I work on each canvas right behind it when I'm almost making a stop with that painting and moving to the other. So total number of hours. Again, these are documentation. You might ask, okay, what are these things going to do? You will see that when you come to pricing tutorial um, session. So all these things go behind. And in my case, I have mentioned this in my tutorial videos. I do a sign off in a two-layer way, that is having my own left hand thumb impression put in one place and in the corner, and then I wait for it to dry, and I use that space itself to start my name and assign fully. This is a very debatable topic that I wanted to touch upon as a part of documentation, that people do sign only initials. It is preferred that only initials are signed in some countries, and that is perfectly fine. This is a personal choice that I made, that I will write my full name in a style that I created for myself. It is from being inspired by an artist by name Paul Delaroche. I saw his signatures, the way he had signed, and I really loved that idea. So I adapted it and I tried to create something on my own. And I also, when it comes to documentation, we are invariably talking about one thing. I'm not using the word yet. What is it? Authenticity. How authentic is this? Is this exactly the artwork that the original buyer is going to? If the buyer is sitting in somewhere across the world and is believing that somebody is packaging and sending it, is it the right product? And I try to give authenticity with the help of my own left hand thumb impression in one place here. Another place that I choose is that I wherever there is a key image that I have painted, the key character's face, exactly behind the face, I try to put another left hand thumb impression. So this in a way, so whoever picks up this original will be the only one that has access to this particular thing. So this is a simple way that I could think of to give a proof to my customer or the end product owner that this is the piece that I physically worked on. So you're buying an original and not a duplicate from somewhere. So that's what I have tried to do. Yeah, that's about a part of documentation, and of course the two layered signature style. If you do not like this idea, or if you think that people will not buy if the signature is there or something like that, then you can adapt things accordingly. For me, I have created this in a range where if my name isn't there in this style, people wouldn't even think that it is my product. So it is now turned in that way, slowly, steadily. So this is fine by me. Again, it is your choice. You can put a small initials and you can do all those things right behind. And I wanted to share with you how I write it. I paint it. For this, I'm going to come back to two key logics from our introduction session. If you haven't watched it, please do go back to the basics of preparation for oil paintings. What I have done. Those videos could be helpful to understand how to buy and how to select canvases. So two things are important. If the canvas quality has to be good enough to take on, because if the quality isn't good and you're painted on top of it, then there is a chance that what you write here will show up in light behind and it will distract the image itself. So that's a huge danger. Keep that in mind. So that's also a reason why I mentioned buying a good quality product. Number one. Number two is how you are writing. I write only a layer of paint using oil paint. I write and I'll show you how to do it. Another thing is that I have painted at least 5 layers on top of this canvas. So there is no chance that whatever I have written behind is going to flash through and show up in front. This is something I'm sure of. So only when you are sure of what? Two things. One, the quality of canvas is good. You can paint on behind and it will not show up in the front and spoil your artwork. Another thing is that you have done enough layers on top, so there is no way that that paint is going to come through the canvas to the front. Though that's when you are painting. Otherwise, the option is to use marker pen. Again, marker pens are also dark enough, so everything comes back to the quality of the canvas. If you haven't used a nice quality, then it's going to create unnecessary trouble for you. What do I do when I'm painting? How do I paint and write? My handwriting isn't that good, but the way I write, I have a technique. So this is one of my very old brushes, 0 or 1. I think it is 0. Yeah. So I keep old brushes that are almost, blunt, no more hair. It's almost blunt. And I use that to write, dipping it in a color and without much oil or such, and then be able to write. I'm going to just write in front of you. think I've written the company name, the city, and can you see that it's like writing with a sketch pen or something, a felt pen. And the thickness will depend on the brush, how blend the brushes and such. You can decide. You can take micro brushes that are there also to try this. I haven't done that, so I think this brush is good enough for me. And it's almost like writing with a pen. That's it. So, um, like I mentioned in the beginning, there are many other ways to document. I have seen there is an artist, I think many of you might have already checked out her page or such, Carla Grace. I'm a fan of her. I have so much respect for her artwork. And I saw how she makes it authenticated that it's her original. She's got a small little coin kind of a thing made with her signature embossed on it and a token number. So it's like a token that she sends along with the piece of the original and so on to let the original piece holder know that that's a Carla Grace original. That is something that I learned from watching her videos. That's one example. So there are many other examples. People make documentations as well, like writing agreements, and that is also something I do. So if I have written an agreement, let's say that I'm this is not a this is my own idea. But let's say that this is not my idea. My customer gave an idea for me to work on it. It's a private art commission. Then the PAC, it's a PAC, I call it. In the code itself starts with PAC. Art commission has a complete agreement saying that they have given me some sample pictures based on which I'm supposed to paint. So copies of those pictures, and I'm going what exactly they have asked me to do. I will give it in writing so that it's all the agreement is clear, especially in a very subjective and very creative zone that we are doing a business on. It's really better to have it all written down so there is no disappointment at both ends. So I have written all that, what kind of oil I use, what kind of paints I use. I think these are also points that you see in my tutorials. Under the description, you will see the products that I'm using. Is it Winsor and Newton? Is it Classico? What else? And what kind of brushes and such. If it is not branded, I mentioned that it's a non-branded item that I am using. So all these things are documented in my private art commissions agreement. The price agreed. The have we agreed for interim meetings? So sometimes they would like to know how your painting is developing, and they would like to give feedback and ask you to change things and such when it comes to private art commissions. So I think it is good to put in how many agreements, how many meetings should we have, and when and such, and when do we deliver. All these things have been documented on a paper, at least to sign from both ends. That is a basic thing about documentation. Yeah. Um, all these points we are going to touch upon when we talk about pricing as well. Yeah, because it all culminates into how much can I ask. This is one question everybody has. That's $1 million question for artists. We don't know how much should we ask. That's always a trouble. So it all comes back to that. So let's quickly summarize. What is documentation? It's a proof of your work. Simple proof of the work that you have done. It's a proof of um, all the materials used in the process, and it's a proof of the whole work as such. Exactly is it and such, and it is making things simpler for a handover takeover. you're handing over to a customer, somebody is taking over, and he or she wants to know that I have bought or I have invested in the right product and not the wrong one. Authenticity is important. Maybe I have missed to think of some other angle that you think, oh, this is important, she has missed it. You write it down in the comments and let me know. I will also learn from you. So, whatever you can give in the form of proof that you have created this piece of work and this is how you did it, and this is the exact piece that is the original and not copies and such. Because when it comes to prints, it's even confusing. Okay, there are prints, so is this a printed version or is this original or such? I also differentiate the prints and original in a different manner because the original art holder gets the sides as well. So do you see that the sides are painted in my paintings? So even the sides are painted, right? And when I actually prepare for prints, it's usually the 40 by 50. In this particular case, it's a 40 by 50 centimeter canvas, so that's exactly what I have cut into. The original art holder has the access to. There's only one person that would have, or one institution, for example, would have the access to the original. It's a practical thing. Only one person can buy that particular piece. Even if you are making 100 replicas, that's another point, though it's coming in the summary. You could replicate the same thing because people are asking you. But this is an original product that was made in this particular date and time. The next one, maybe an exact copy that you yourself make, is another original, should have another product code made in another timeline for another customer. So keep that red thread very clear for documentation. That's all I would like to share. I have I started my life as an accountant. I am a professional accountant as well, and a management consultant as well. So I have used all this coming from those documentation perspectives as well. And I think most of the artists that have been in the industry for many, many years would simply say, hey, this is something basic that we would do. Yes. So, yeah, that's all for this particular session on documentation. Let's meet up in the next session and focus on uh, product segmentation and pricing and such. Yes. Thank you very much. Bye bye.